right, there we go. Now we're in. I thought I started the video, but it didn't go. If you give me 1 second, let me just make sure the streams are up. Yes, they are. Oh, I gotta kill that. Oh, that's YouTube. Sorry. All right. So sorry. I am here. All right. Just need to verify that everything was up and working. I'm working alone. All right. So I just want to thank everybody for joining us to hear Matthew's interview and story. If you're new to Storybee, which you probably are because we're still pretty new, please like and subscribe if you're on Facebook or YouTube. Also, let me put these up real quick. I do, until the end of the year, we are running some promotions on the website. As far as booking goes, you can get 20% off of your booking if you book before the end of the year. And also, if you see that scrolling thing at the bottom, you can use the promo code there, Holiday15, for 15% off your merchandise order at our Teespring store. So anyways, let me just introduce Matt. Matt is my cousin. He was, I think he was the first person who actually shared my last video post on Facebook, and I saw it and I loved what he said. And just, you know, I've known Matt for a while, but there's also a lot of mystery because he's been away from the area when I was growing up. So we'll get to all that. But anyways, let me introduce Matt. He served in the military with the Air Force, and now he's living back in Rochester, New York. So let me pull him in. Say hello, Matthew. I think you're, hang on, I got to unmute you. All right, go ahead. Now you're good.
How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Congratulations. This is a great idea.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Let me pull off these distracting banners. There and there. There we go. All right. So let me just say this. I was going to say this earlier in the introduction, but to everyone who's watching live, feel free to ask questions for Matt. I think towards the end of the interview, we would do this, but if you have questions, I can actually put them up on the screens and Matt can try to answer them. So
I have questions for Matt that I've been trying to answer for years. So, you know, you guys could ask too if you want. But.
Yeah, here's your chance to stick it to them. Really make them squirm.
Yeah.
Anyways, let me. All right, now I got the comment view up. All right, so we're good to go, man. So I saw your post on Facebook, and I really liked what you said. I got it written down here. You said, and I appreciate this, my cousin is doing great things. He's a good man, sharing people's stories and making a living doing it. These days, social media needs a positive spin. Here's one. What will your story be? So why did you, I know we come from a very, I wouldn't want to say frugal family. I don't think you shared it because you were going to you were trying to win a free interview out of this. It sounded like you truly connected with what Storybee is doing. So why did you post that?
Yeah, no, I honestly just posted that because those were my feelings at the time. You know, when I see something that I know is going to be a benefit to people, and it's a positive way to use, social media and interact with, family and friends who, are far away, where they just can't see them right now. This is the type of thing that we need. We need a way that we can interact, share stories, maybe tell a few things about ourselves that people just don't know. Sometimes distance does make the heart grow fonder. But, in this case, it gives us a way to interact and share. And so I think this is a great concept. Anybody who knows me knows I kind of wear my heart on my sleeve, and if I see something that I like, I just say it. So that's why.
You and me both, man. I think I'm hearing sound from other windows. So let me close these out real quick. All right, I think that's better. I hope I don't get a ding every time somebody says something. So yeah, one of the, this will be interesting to you. One of the reasons why I started this was because of our grandparents. As you know, our grandparents, they hid Jews during the war. My wife captured their interview on a little flip cam, but to me, it was everything, just preserving that. And I know the quality, the quality wasn't that great, but I have a collection of that stuff, and I'm telling you, I don't know what I'd do without it. And I believe it's just really important to preserve stories, and I'm sure you share that too. I mean, your dad is the one who introduced, to the entire family, hey, we're going to hear Grandpa and Grandma's story. And at the time, I didn't realize how important that was. If I knew what I'd be doing now, I would have paid more attention. But I'm really glad to have that.
Yeah, absolutely. Our grandparents, I think we're very fortunate. We're very fortunate to have had grandparents that we could look up to, that had great values, that loved this country more than anybody I can recall, including myself. I love our country. There's no doubt about that. But, what they went through and what they endured and what they were able to do in the face of that is something that shouldn't be overlooked, and it should be talked about, and it should be shared. So, they're the best people that I think most people in our family would say they're the best people they've ever known, and I believe that. They were great folks.
I agree, and they are, the legacy that came off of our family. I mean, I think there's a reason why our family turned out the way it did. Was because they were at the top of it, just modeling what it means to be a good human being. Really, are you getting those notifications, or is that on my end?
I don't think they're coming from me. I turned off my email notifications, so hopefully I cleaned house there.
I'm trying to figure out where this is coming from. I may have to go on.
Maybe somebody's sending you those little hearts and thumbs ups.
That's what it is.
Is that what it is? Probably.
I don't see them popping up. I'm
not that guy. I don't really know about these things, but I've seen them.
Yeah. People who
know. There's a heart. There's a smiley face.
Yeah.
Flying across the screen. Beautiful.
All right. So let's get into the questions. I've been trying to debate whether or not I want to show both of us. I think I'm going to show you when you're really answering these questions, because I really want to capture that in its entirety. All right, so let's start from the beginning. Tell me, where did you grow up? What kind of home did you grow up in, and what were some of the values that were instilled upon you?
Well, grew up in Rochester, New York, in many different places within Rochester, actually. Always had a Rochester address, but lived in Gates at one time, lived at another house in the Gates area another time. Then we moved over to the east side of town, where my folks now live in Penfield, still with a Rochester address right there off of Browncroft Boulevard. Had a great childhood. I mean, I learned so much from the early places that we lived. I hate to sound like, the common story that people tell, it didn't have very much, or, things were tight or anything like that. It was a really happy time. We're not a wealthy family, but we were doing okay. And the best part was our parents always made us feel, like we brought value. And, no matter where we were or where we lived, that our parents did a great job of doing that for us, me and my sister, Christine. But really, I think the biggest change was when we moved to the east side of Rochester, and we were a little bit closer to our siblings, and our cousins and aunts and uncles. That's when things changed quite a bit for me personally. At that point, we spent a lot of time together. You almost couldn't go a day without seeing a cousin or an aunt or an uncle, and those were good things. I remember, growing up, that it was expected that you would see family members every week and spend a lot of time with them, and those are really happy times for me. Especially going to church, being in youth group, enjoying time with friends at Rochester Christian Reformed Church, and with family members. That was really a good time. And the schools were a little bit more positive for me as well. I remember, being on the west side of town, things weren't always quite as happy or pleasant as they were on the east side. And I really appreciated my parents' willingness to kind of, pack up, get us closer to family, and get us into a little bit nicer area. At least that's the way I recall it. But growing up, certainly, even being in Gates, I can remember some really great things that happened. Some of my most memorable holidays, Christmases, things like that, are in that small yellow house on Deming Road. I can even tell you what some of the presents were that I opened in that house. That was those were the most memorable, I think, for me.
So it sounds like from an early age, family matters. Like family mattered big time.
Yeah, family was really important. Being able to trust one another, being able to confide in one another, always knowing that even if things weren't going well, that someone was going to always be there for you or always be home, were very important for me. And then one, without getting too mushy here, I know one statement that my dad made to me when I was very young, because his parents divorced when he was young, and he told me one day that I would never have to worry about that, and that was a very positive statement. I remember when he said that, and it stuck with me, and I think it's probably one of the reasons why my marriage is so strong today.
Wow. So I mean, you can't thank your parents enough for something like that.
No, they're the best people that I know. They've taught me a lot. They teach me about patience, and they teach me about being inclusive and being objective about a lot of different subjects. And in today's world, that's come in pretty handy. We got a lot of things going on. We got a lot of things that we're seeing in the news, things on social media, and it's very important not to have kind of the blinders on and not think about other people's perspectives. And they've instilled that from a very early age. It's very important to think about what other people are saying and be inclusive about their viewpoints. And I've always, tried to do that. I like to stay grounded in the things that I know to believe are good and right and true. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that I can't listen to other people's viewpoints. So, my parents taught me that.
That's great. So what did you want to be when you grow up? Not everybody who goes into the military wants to, some people do it as like a last resort because they don't have any plans. Some people grow up actually thinking they want to do it. I think your dad worked for Chase Pickens back then, and now he's at Wegmans. But did you have a feeling for what you wanted to do, or what did your call into the military look like?
Well, I think I fell into that category you just mentioned of someone who didn't have a lot of direction as far as what I wanted a career to be. I took about a year off after high school. I did work. I had a job at Chase Pitkins. I worked in a lumber yard over on Holt Road. I was there for a couple of years. It was a great experience for me. Pretty hard work, but I learned a lot doing that job. But ultimately I needed to make a choice, and I knew that I needed to leave the house. Eventually you got to go. So I can't stay there forever. And when the Air Force came calling, I felt like I had the right mindset to be a service member. I knew that, if given the right direction, I would be able to focus and do, what I needed to do to succeed in the military. And I think for a lot of, kids like me who maybe, weren't focused or didn't have, an exact plan, the military can be a great fit. It just so happened that I was thrust into a career in the military that was perfect for me. It was mechanically based. It was all about equipment and troubleshooting and working on aircraft. And that's where I spent the next 20 years.
Did you think that you would make a career of it? I mean, did you plan on staying in that long? And, coming from such a deep-rooted family, I can imagine how difficult that decision was.
Yeah, tough to leave home. And no, I didn't plan on staying in for 20 years. I planned on 4 years, and 4 years went by pretty quick. And then there were some they call them selective reenlistment bonuses that were available at that time for my career field. And I took advantage of one of those. And, you get to that point of no return in a military career when you hit 10 years. When you hit 10 years, and it's like, why get out now? I've still got a lot left to offer. I'm in that, mid-level NCO tier right now. I'm probably the most skilled that I'm ever going to be. Mm-hmm. And, 10 more years and I'll have something I can really look back on and be proud of. So I stuck it out and, brought my family along with me.
Did you feel like you had that duty to, I don't know what your team looked like, but did you feel like you had that duty to just stay in?
To some extent, if you get to be good enough at your job and you find your niche in the Air Force, and aircraft maintenance is kind of unlike any other job in the military, across all branches. It's really a different animal. It's kind of run like a business. So you can really find your niche, you can find your specialty. And if you're really, good at what you do, it really, just gives you daily affirmation, like Stuart Smalley here, but, people love me, but, no, it gives you a great feeling that you're doing something positive. It's not that, other branches don't have that, but every day you get to see the fruits of your labor. You get to see, your aircraft flying around, doing training missions, or when you deploy, doing the real thing. And yeah, you get a lot of satisfaction out of that. You really do. And you know that if you get out, that's going away. So to some extent, yes, I did feel an obligation to stay. But, one thing that the military did teach me is that when you leave, and eventually you will leave, whether it's one duty station to another, or, separation or retirement, that machine just keeps going. It does not.
It doesn't wait for you.
No, it doesn't wait for you. I mean, they're just as effective today as when, I was there, or some of the guys that I worked with. So, that's the great thing about the military. They can just kind of march on.
Do you have anything that you're most proud of? Like, were there any major accomplishments in your career there that you'd like to recognize? Like, I know you don't like to brag about yourself, but what are you most proud of doing that?
Well, we did a lot of good things. It was my unit, my squadron that I was in. I was primarily, throughout my career, I was in the 74th Fighter Squadron, Flying Tigers, and being a member of that unit is very near and dear to me. I have a plaque that hangs next to my bed that Brenna doesn't like hanging next to my bed, I don't think, but it says, once a Flying Tiger, always a Flying Tiger. I'm really proud to have been part of that unit. The history goes back, all the way to 1941. So very proud of that. As far as individual accomplishments, being available, deploying when I needed to. I went to, many different places overseas, and, I won't get into, exactly what we did when we were there and what the results were. But in my mind, it's what we needed to do. And I'm very proud to say that we brought everybody home as well from our unit. So
that's great. That's great. So at what point did you realize that, I mean, you said you made it to 20 years, right? At what point did you realize that it's time to come back to New York and get back connected with your family? And why did you move back to New York? I mean, you had lived in Georgia for how many years? What brought you back?
Yeah, it wasn't an easy decision. At least for me personally, I had friends, in Georgia. That's where all my buddies were. Some of them, found a way to find a career path, maybe not exactly where we were in South Georgia, there in the Valdosta area, but, somewhere in the South. I felt that our best opportunity for a family, for education, and, for me personally, was to move back up to an area I was familiar with, and, and find something that I could do here to be successful. That was something that, my wife and I talked about, and we had to discuss at length before doing. But, eventually I had a great opportunity put in front of me, to join a great team at Wegmans. Wegmans had an opportunity for me to come in and do probably the only job that they have in their entire company that is somewhat transferable from what I did in the Air Force, and that was being a fleet maintenance department manager, or at that time a team leader.
So that definitely make it easier.
Yeah. From a maintenance aspect, it was pretty cool because I knew a lot about, maintenance and maintenance procedures, troubleshooting, root cause analysis when you have issues, things like that. So none of that was really foreign to me. But I had to learn all about trucks and trailers because these are not airplanes. So a little bit of a technical drop off going from, the A-10 Thunderbolt 2, which was the airplane I worked on most of the time, down to, tractors and trailers.
Yeah. All right. What was it? Oh, yeah. Yeah. I was going to ask you, so, and, we're going to have personal questions, riddled through this. I don't want to make you tear up too early.
No, I think I got that out of my system. So go ahead.
Yeah, we'll see about that. As far as, was there a family sacrifice by living in Georgia and being away? I mean, not only being away from New York and the family that you grew up around, but just for your personal individual family with your wife and kids. Was there a sacrifice to your serving this country?
Can I just say yes?
Yeah, expand upon that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there was. It was a lot of time spent away from home. I think in the time that I've been married, and I think I made this statement at my retirement ceremony. I believe I owe my wife about 4 years and 3 months or something like that. If you put everything together in the time that I was gone. So, some of the shorter temporary duty assignments, were not too bad. You can go a few days and then come back, or a couple weeks and come back. But 6 months or a year at a time, or 90 days at a time, that can take quite a toll on your family. She's my wife, Brenna. She's an amazing person. She's had to deal with a lot in her life. She had to support the family when I wasn't around, and sometimes when she wasn't available. My oldest daughter, Mackenzie, would take up and do some things, do some chores, things around the house. So it took a toll on everybody. I think time will tell how much of a toll, but we're a strong unit. We still love each other. Sometimes are better than others, but we still love each other, and we still enjoy each other's company. So it's a sacrifice, not one that I can really explain. When you're out doing the job, like the last deployment I went on was to Afghanistan. That was in 2013. 6 months being away, and at that point, those are some tough years to be away. Or tough months to be away. You've got, a daughter who's right around 14 or 13 years old. My son was 11 or 12. Madison was, even younger than that. So, not having dad around is probably a difficult thing. And then, the thing that they try to kind of school you up on is, and they get a hold of you about a week or so before you get back, is your reacclimation time. So you've been gone for a long time, you come back, and that can be difficult for people, to come back and suddenly be thrust back into family life, and you haven't been there for a long time. Now you're back. How do you handle that?
Yeah.
Some people handle that better than others.
Yeah. But I mean, heck, you said you've been married. How long have you been married to Brenna?
I thought the tough questions were later.
Well, I dated my wife 7.5 years, so I even have to think back sometimes, like when it all started.
22 years in January.
Wow. And she hung with you through, like you said, all the sacrifice through the military, and you're still together. That means you got something that you're proud of. And I mean, I as cool as it is that you've served our country in the way you did, just knowing you, I think you're most proud of your family, right?
Yeah, I mean, we made it. We made it through, not without bumps and bruises, but we made it. So, I can tell you a lot. I unfortunately know a lot more of my friends who wound up, getting divorced or separating during that time than I do ones who stayed together. Um, that's unfortunately some of what happens when people are gone, or separated for a long period of time. But again, it goes back to what we talked about before. Grandma and grandpa, mom and dad, telling us what's important. It wasn't going to happen if I had anything to say about it. And thankfully I was smart enough to be smart and be faithful to my wife, and she was to me. And there was never really any question about how it was going to turn out. We're married and we're sticking together, and it's going to stay that way.
Yeah, it's definitely going to happen. So sorry, I have this like mosquito flying around. I don't know what mosquitoes are doing in December, but apparently they still exist.
We don't have those up here. We have nothing's alive outside.
Yeah, it's a little frosty here, but my brother told me this morning, I think it's like 12 degrees there. So
yeah, don't buy citronella. It's a scam. I'm telling you right now. Citronella is a scam.
I'm sure there's a story behind that, but we need to keep moving on. So is there anything else that you want to say about family before we talk about some other things? Like, I don't know if you want to talk about like how you met your wife, and part of your story is also your family story. So if there's anything else you want to say about your wife and kids, and even your extended family, now's the time.
Yeah, I married into a great family, southern family from down there in North Carolina, in the Fayetteville area, and I met Brenna in Fayetteville at a country and western dance club called the Palomino. I think the first thing we ever did together was play air hockey, and then we danced. So, really romantic, I know. But yeah, that's how I met my wife. We dated for a while, and thankfully when I finally got up the guts to ask her to marry me, she said yes. I had to ask her dad first, so I drove to the Kelly tire shop and where he worked, and I asked him, would it be okay if I proposed to your daughter? And in his deep Southern voice, he said, she's kin to her mama. Yes, I do know that she's kin to her mama, and that's still okay with me. So, but he was speaking of Vicky, my mother-in-law, who we love very much. She's a very sweet lady, very grounded in her faith, and she's been, a great help in helping to raise our kids and keep our family, grounded as well. So, yeah, my wife, I think one of the things, I'm going to show you a picture, and she's going to probably kill me, but That's okay. One of the things that she did.
Hold it up real close.
Oh, wait. That's probably reflecting. Can you see it now?
Yeah. All right, you can pull it back.
All right. So when I met Brenna, she was already a school teacher, and I thought that was pretty cool. She had graduated from East Carolina University. She had her master's in education. I tell people she has more degrees than a hot summer day. But she did that, but it wasn't really her calling. And then she decided when we moved to Georgia that she wanted to change. At that point, she had been out of teaching for a while. She decided she wanted to change careers, and so she went to school again to be a radiology technician and a radiologic technician. Is that right? She'll correct me later. But now she's very skilled at this job. She's one of the best, at the lab where she works, and now she does 3D modeling for the images that are taken. So she'll take an image that, an X-ray, or a scan, and she'll turn it into a 3D model, and then the doctors can look at it and decide, what to do. Pretty darn cool. So very proud of her for, taking a chance and going back to school and doing, what she wanted to do. And now she's very successful with that. So, I'm very, very proud of that. Real quickly, here we are when we were so young.
Babies.
Just babies. Now, if you look at that picture, that basically looks like my son, Caleb, and my daughter, Mackenzie. But then, like I was speaking about earlier, my parents.
Love it.
That's a great painting that was done by Jim Christie. And, they're just the best people that I know, and they have a lot to do with my story. So, that's my wife and me. And then I'm going to show you a picture of my kids real quick. And I apologize for all the pictures, but
no, I'm glad you did that.
So this is a very, oh my gosh, this freaking reflection is just killing me.
Yeah, I think in the future I'll ask people to take it out of the frames.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Oh, it's okay.
This is an old picture. My daughter, Mackenzie, in the middle, she's now 20. She'll be 21 in March, and I can't believe it. My son, Caleb, is 18. And our youngest daughter, Madison, is 14. And she's a mess. But
you mean that in the best of ways.
Yeah, no, but they're great. They've all, they're all doing their own thing. Mackenzie goes to school in Georgia. She's got, her boyfriend down there. And she's doing very well. She's got a job down there as well. So, she's dealing with the whole COVID thing far away from home. Caleb is still very close to home. He lives here still, and he is going to Brockport, and eventually is last plan that I heard is to enter into the military at some point, probably into the Army. So, very proud of that. If that's the path that he chooses, I think that'll be great for him. And then Madison is still in school. She goes to Willink here in Webster, and one of our little artists, and loves music, and she's a little bit quirky and weird like me, but that's okay. But that's my three kids. I couldn't ask for them to be any better than they are. They're both taking their own path, and hopefully, they'll use whatever tools they have to serve, serve their community, serve their country, do whatever they can do in their own way to help others.
That's great. You sound like a, a proud husband, proud son, proud father. Sounds like as far as your life so far, if you could put one word on it, what would it be?
Well, I think pride is the right word. If you don't have pride in anything and you don't have pride in yourself, then you kind of stop caring and you let yourself go. So, when it comes to our country, being proud of our faith, being proud of our family, once you stop being proud, you just kind of stop being productive. So, I'm very, very proud of those things. I'm also very proud of the work that I'm doing where I work now at Wegmans. I think we're doing some great things. And hopefully in my own way, I'm contributing in that same way.
That's great. So was it, hang on, let me put it back on us. Was it in any way like a culture shock being back in New York, suddenly around family again, and working in a job that wasn't the Air Force?
Oh yeah. It's been crazy. It was like going into a time machine. I mean, you're gone. And yeah, I visited, Rochester here and there. I would come back once in a while on leave, but to come back and live here, it was like I was finding out about everything all over again. You try to stay aware of the fact that you've been gone. And yeah, all your aunts and uncles, all your cousins, and you kind of sort of know their kids now, and their kids are growing up. But really, you've missed a huge chunk of their lives. We stay connected, somewhat through social media and whatnot, but it's not the same as being really close to a family for your entire childhood.
Yeah.
And all through school, and then being gone through, what are considered probably the prime years of, your life as people are getting their education or their higher education, or starting their careers or starting families and having babies and doing all those things. And you're gone, and then you come back, and now all of a sudden there's kids everywhere, and you don't really know a lot about them. So yeah, that was kind of a culture shock, and it still is today. I struggle with connecting with everybody. It's not like talking to strangers. I know who everybody is, but I only remember them as they were, for the most part, when they were 17, 18, 19, 20, not like they've been the past 20 years. Well, now I've been retired now for since 94. So, I've been retired since 2014. So I've been retired for a few years now, and, we're starting to
get a normal.
Yeah, get kind of a new normal going on. But yeah, it is different. The other part of your question, though, about, being, I think what you were getting at was maybe being thrust into corporate America.
Yeah.
That's been really weird. I struggle with that every day. I don't really know if companies fully understand the differences between a military career and a corporate career, and the challenges that can come from that. But, it can be very difficult for someone who's kind of regimented and things have to be a certain way. And it's very results oriented in the military or in the Air Force. And often those results have to happen, now. There's not, oh, we'll have a meeting about a meeting and then, we'll talk about that in a couple of weeks. It's, we got to do something now. It's going to be fixed in an hour, and then we're going to move on to the next thing, and that's what we did.
Yeah, and you probably assume that everyone around you is going to react the same way too, and they don't live by that same culture that you did.
No, and and there's a time and a place for that. In a military setting, there's a reason why it's that way, because it's appropriate for what you're trying to do. In corporate, settings, you're not as concerned about results as you are about, you are concerned about results, but you're also concerned and consumed with developing people, and making sure people are getting learnings out of the process and they're contributing so that everybody feels, included, and all those types of things. And those touchy-feely things weren't always, things that I dealt with in the Air Force. It didn't really matter if you wanted to do it or not. It didn't matter if you felt like it or not.
Yeah, orders are orders.
Yeah, it didn't matter if it was raining outside or if it was, 120 degrees. You were doing what you needed to do. So yeah, that's been very different. Trying to, get into that. I think one of the things I did, I'll share this with you. One of the things I did was, that Wegmans did for me, was they sent me to a course called Dale Carnegie.
My father-in-law actually works with Dale Carnegie.
Oh, well, great. I mean,
yeah.
So you understand, some of this. Did you take the course as well, or you?
I have the book and I know all about it.
Yeah.
Reading is not my favorite thing. I don't know if you're anything like me. I don't.
No, that's why I take the little book. See,
right, that's got all the answers in it.
Yeah, I don't like the big books. I take the one that's like abbreviated Cliff Notes version. But anyways, the short and sweet of the Dale Carnegie class is that, and at least for me, when having a pretty grounded past and trying to do things that you've been taught your whole life are good, like treating other people with respect, and making people feel included in conversations and things. All the things you kind of learned about when you were younger. Well, the Dale Carnegie course kind of puts that into a different format. Mm-hmm. And it teaches you that those things are still important. It just kind of teaches you in a different way. And there's 32 principles, I believe, in the Dale Carnegie course. And it was a great experience for me. It really, I wouldn't normally, toot the horn about that, but it really kind of changed the way that I looked at interacting with people at work. And now I'm not so, I try not to be so rigid. Bullish, and rigid, more kind of, absorbing and trying to listen, to things. And it was a huge help to me. So give that one a plug. That was a great experience.
That's great. We're getting close to the end now. I did, because I have your father's number, I did ask him if there were any questions that you would want me to ask Matt. What would they be? I asked him for one question. He gave me three. I guess he couldn't decide. And let's see. The first one he asked, and by the way, let me say, whoever's watching, I don't know how many people are live with us right now. I know your mom is, because she did the heart eyes emoji. But your dad asked, hi, Aunt Alice. It's yeah. See the perk of interviewing family. I actually know that people are watching. um, your dad asked, "What's your favorite memory growing up?"
That is kind of a tough one. Um, I think probably going camping. We are a camping family. We always have been. Um, you know, going to different campgrounds, kind of off the beaten path with mom and dad. Even, before we got the campers and we started glamping, right?
Oh,
We
right. Yeah, I'm
we
doing.
used to have tents. Yeah, we used to have tents, believe it or not. Um, but that was a lot of fun, and I do still recall those things. Um, most most of what I recall from camping, though, that came from being up at Aunt Betty, Uncle Aukie's property. Really, that place when he decided to get that piece of property in Dansville, that kind of changed things for the whole family. Really, I mean, it was a place to congregate. It was a place to camp and feel comfortable with family, play games. You knew you were always welcome there. And anything that I ever learned about camping or, being outdoors, I think in some way, in most ways, probably came from camping there. And those are really positive experiences. I don't recall ever, having a bad experience camping at Uncle Aukie's land. And I'm really grateful. I know my mom and dad are grateful for him letting us come and stay there once in a while. It was really cool. Even more recently, we've been able to have our camper up there a few times. This past year we were blessed to get our own piece of property. So we since moved our camper to another spot, but we'll never forget those times at the land in
Yes, the land. That is what we called it.
It's always going to be the land. That's right.
And I know back then I was about this big, and I wasn't an adult asking you adult questions. I was probably annoying the crap out of you and the older cousins. But I do remember being around. There was, if you wind back, I don't know what it's like now. I hadn't been to the land in a while, but there was that the fire that was closer to the edge, not the main one that people gathered at, but that little side fire. I remember gathering around that, and you were there. Probably Mike was there, and we were all gathered around this fire. It wasn't even lit, but we were standing there trying to get reception, listening to the Bills game. So this is a good segue to talk about your hobbies, and I have a feeling you like the Bills a little bit.
Yeah, well, I was going to try and play it off like I'm not really interested in sports or football, but everybody knows I'm a psychotic Bills fan. So,
Me too.
I have drugged my Bills memorabilia to every place I've ever been. I hung a Bills flag in my tent when I was in Kuwait. I had
You had a shack.
Oh yeah, I had Bills gear on in Afghanistan and in Iraq. Uh, my room in Germany was covered with Bills stuff. So it's just followed me anywhere I've ever been. I even had a Bills patch on my uniform, at least my demo team uniform back in the day. So I'm a huge Bills fan. I'm so proud of what the team is doing now. I think one of my proudest moments, though, even though we're having great success now, and I'll share this with you real quick.
All right. Well, you got a Bills tablecloth made out of a blanket.
Yeah. Yep, Bills tablecloth and a blinking hat, if you can see that.
Bills hat.
Yeah. So when I retired from the Air Force, Jim Kelly and he has a fan club. But Jim Kelly signed this letter to me, and I never forgot. About the Bills. It's not just about the football team or about liking football. There's a lot of fans out there, but being a Bills fan is different. It's tough to put your finger on it, but there really is this sense of family, community, and of course, a lot of that comes from a lot of heartache, a lot of years of not quite making it, not quite closing the deal, especially in the Super Bowl years. So, but from that, I think it has brought us close together. And I know that one day when we do win the big game,
it'll happen.
And it's going to mean more to our fan base than any other fan base in the world. I don't care who else calls themselves America's team, or my brother-in-law, who we've been trying to convert, who's a Steelers fan. He's not going to convert, although after last week, maybe he'll think about it.
Yeah, we'll see. I know
yeah.
that
I don't know. I just had to throw that in there. Yeah, a little jab. Well, he sent me a lot of mean pictures, so I got to get him back. But
hey, what are they going to do once Ben retires? Nothing, right?
I don't know. They'll have to.
I don't want to get
somebody else in there. What's that?
I don't want to get to trolling, because the second you start trolling other fan bases, you curse your own team. So I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, I'm typically not that way, but he did start it, so right. I just had a little one back. But anyway, Jim Kelly sent in that letter. He also signed a football for me, congratulating me when I retired, and that was great. Never forgot that. He's a class act, and he still lives in Buffalo. I think one of the reasons why the team is so successful and beloved right now is because of our new quarterback. We've got Josh Allen. We got the Josh's Jacks here.
Oh, the cereal.
Yeah, we got Josh's Jacks. Right? I mean, yeah. Everybody loves this kid, and it's not just because he can play ball. I mean, he seems to be a really grounded, humble,
blue collar, all the cliched things they say about him, right?
Yeah, blue collar kid, the type of person you would want leading your team. And then, of course, he's really involved in the community. If you haven't already, you can go to the website there and donate to Oshai Children's Hospital on behalf of his grandmother who passed away. They have a whole wing that was named after her now, which is just great. But I think so far they've raised, through that effort for the Children's Hospital, they've raised over $700,000, if you can believe that. Wow. Just crazy. So, seems like a nice guy. If history has taught us anything, it's not to put too much faith in man. Yeah. Because there's been, a lot of disappointments, and people can disappoint you. But I think, when you do have someone who's in your life, or someone, who is a positive, a positive influence, we should celebrate that while we can, because those are great things. And to see what he's doing, it just makes me want to be even more of a fan. So go Bills. Yeah, absolutely. I know you and I could sit here and talk about the Bills like all day long, but we probably. Yeah, absolutely. And you and your dad are probably, like, out of everybody I know, are probably the biggest Bills fans, and the only ones that I feel like can hang when I start hang like verbally, like when I start talking about it and not tuning out. I mean, you're totally bought in. So I've always appreciated that. We're in at this point, we're sold out. Absolutely. Yeah, that's right. All right, so let's get back to it. I don't usually when I do in-person interviews, I don't. Your mom said, "Oh, we can." I'll put that up. Oh, we can hang. Yep, she's a big fan too.
Oh yeah, for sure. And that's I know for me, like living in Georgia, that's the one thing I miss more than anything. And I would give anything to teleport to New York every Sunday and watch the game with everybody. And I'm telling you, like, it kills me just, outside of this, I also work at a church. So like I'm watching the clock all the time, knowing, oh shoot, the Bills game's starting. Sometimes I'll schedule an interview at 1 o'clock because I have no choice. and then I gotta just like shut off all notifications on my phone.
Yeah.
So it doesn't get swarmed.
Always a challenge to find your games when you're out of state. I remember trying to find games being overseas, or going to the morale tent at 3 o'clock in the morning to watch a game, that was being played back in the States in the middle of the day. It was, yeah. But whenever you could catch a game on the one TV they had in the morale tent and it happened to be your team, it was like winning the lottery.
Yeah, Christmas, right?
Yeah. Well, you always hope they played a team that was popular, like, Steelers or Dallas or somebody, because then it's going to be on, right? So, yeah, and those Bills fans would be in the back corner like, woo.
Yeah, now that we're getting the primetime games, it's weird because we didn't have those. So that was actually your dad that said that. Apparently he's on your mom's account right now.
Oh, yeah, that happens.
Yeah. Older people, when they get old, they share Facebook accounts, right?
Share everything.
I did not call you old. I'm sorry. So the other questions that your dad had, I don't think we'll get to all of them. Is he said, what are your hopes for your kids and what is your only comfort?
Well, for my kids, I kind of alluded to it earlier, but I really just, they find a happy life. I hope that they're always healthy. That's something that we take for granted and we shouldn't. But when we talk about, our hopes for our kids, I think sometimes we just assume, health, but really hope that they have a nice, healthy life. They take care of themselves. They do something that is, that fulfills them. And I know that true fulfillment comes from doing things that help others. That's my hope for all young kids today is, is that they can find a way to contribute, be aware, be observant. When they see something that's wrong, do something about it. And that's my hope for my kids.
That's great. The third question, what is your only comfort? Knowing that you grew up in the same church as me, I think I know what that's asking. But what does that question mean to you? What is your only comfort?
Well, Jesus Christ died for my sins, and He's my Lord and Savior. That's what gets you through everything when you have a faith-based family. I have a picture on my refrigerator out in my little man cave there that my mom sent me when I was deployed, and it has a verse on it, Joshua 1:9. That have I not commanded you? Do not be afraid, for I am with you wherever you go. I may not have gotten that perfectly right, but that one, always stuck with me. I had that in my locker in Afghanistan, and we once in a while would have some rough nights or days. Most often over there, what you're dealing with is not direct fire, but rocket attacks, things like that, where they lob rockets on base trying to get a hit. That's unfortunately very common. in the area that we were at. And I saw a lot of my brethren over there get pretty darn scared. Some of the toughest guys that I ever knew. Big big strong dudes, or and it didn't mean that they weren't tough guys or tough people, but I knew for me that I wasn't afraid. It was shocking, but in those moments, I wasn't fearful. I was comforted. So
that helps get you through.
Yeah. When you know that no matter what happens, the people who you might leave behind, or even if you're injured, that things are going to be okay. And I might have a little bit of a sheltered view, because for our group, for our unit, most often things were okay. We had some close calls, but like I said, we always, brought everybody home. But I saw, other people in that location who went home another way. And, I think about that a lot. But we remain faithful. Having that background to me is the best thing that ever happened to me. Just being a believer and knowing that no matter what, God's been there with me. So I used every bit of that to my advantage, and I was very grateful to be raised that way.
That's awesome. So we're getting to the end of this thing. So I got the tail end questions to ask here. I think if you've been following this, you know what the last question I ask is. But before we get to that, what has your story been so far, and how do you want to be remembered?
Oh, well, my story so far, I think, has just been that I used the talents that God gave me the best way I knew how. I'm not the most skilled person. I'm certainly not the most educated person. I don't have any degrees. I don't have, much higher education. I do have, some credits here or there, and I've, been fortunate enough to take some classes. But, I used whatever skills God gave me, and, being, detail oriented in certain aspects of my life to my advantage. And, those things so far have not gone to waste. But I think I can do better, I think that'll probably go into your last question.
Yeah. So the last question, the Storybee question, it's very, every time I've asked this question, it's very difficult to answer. And the reason is because there's accountability to it. I mean, the second you say it, you kind of, you're putting that out there that this is who you're going to be going forward. And some people, I guess it's a chance to change from this point forward, or just say, hey, I'm gonna still continue to be this guy. So after everything you've been through, at the end of your journey, what will your story be? What will it be?
Well, I thought about this question too, as you told me to kind of prepare for it. God only knows what the end will be. I certainly don't know, but I think a fair goal for myself, and if I, want to be remembered this way, is to, ultimately be a better version of what I am today. Um, I always kind of, struggled to find myself. I've lived different lives. I had a life before the Air Force. I had a life in the Air Force. I may have even, kind of jumbled in a couple of different identities while I was in the Air Force, depending on my role. I've always tried to stay grounded and not get too far off center. And now, after the military, I'm yet again a little bit of a different person. So there's these different chapters, and each one has pulled me in a different direction. But I think, my story will be that, at the end, whenever it is, I'll be a better version of what I am today. And by that, I mean, more specifically, an even better husband, a better dad, a better brother, son, whatever you want to call it. Just try and improve upon, what I've done so far. And that's an opportunity that everybody has. Some days are better than others, but most days, I try to get up. I say, today's a new day, and I'm going to do a little bit better. And some days I succeed, and some days I don't. But that's probably true for most people. So, I can't give you anything grandiose. I don't think there's going to be any names written on any stone anywhere, or any statues or anything like that. But maybe I'll just be the best version of me that I can be.
That's awesome. That is something lofty to shoot for sure. I think we all want to be the best versions of ourselves. So
Thanks.
I think that's the end of my questions. Were there, I'm sure you booked this interview, I think 2 weeks ago. So you've had a lot of time to think about it. Is there anything else that we haven't talked about, or any points you wanted to get across that you haven't yet?
Well, I think I'd probably end with, there's been a lot of turmoil lately. There's been a lot of, you mentioned pulling people in different directions. Stay centered to what is true. Stay centered to what is, has grounded you, and stay centered, to God, because ultimately that's what's going to be the deciding factor in how, things turn out, whether it's with our, with our country, or with people who are sick, and, everything that we're going through right now. Try to stay centered, try to stay grounded, and remain faithful. Don't ever lose faith, because, and try to stay proud of, our country as well. I know it's difficult for some people to see that, but this is still the best place in the world. And I can assure you, and I've been to some pretty, without an expletive, I've been to some pretty terrible places. And I mean, places where people don't have the right to do anything. I mean, and they have no food. They have nowhere to go. Their family members are taken from them. And as bad as some of the things that we've seen, on television or on the news or in social media, and some of those things have been pretty darn awful. Despite those things, we still have the ability to get better and right those wrongs. And we still have the greatest country in the world. I'll show you one last thing.
Okay. Oh, I know what that is. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. My grandfather made that. I think it's got to be the last thing he ever made for me. As far as I know, there's only a couple of them out there, and I got one. But he was proud of a couple things. Number one, he was proud that this was made out of 8 different kinds of wood. It took him a long time to make it and get all the different types of wood together. But more than that, he was a proud American, and I mean, came here from the Netherlands, barely knew any English, made a life for himself and his wife and his family, and ultimately, for all of us. And he didn't fly the Dutch flag at his house. He didn't fly. He had that on the back of his car. He was an American, and he was very, very proud of that. And I am too. So,
wow, that is a great way to close it. I mean, that's full circle for sure. And I actually have his. I have a nativity set that he made. I have little things all around the house. Yeah, I know. Which one do you have? Do you have the painted one or do you have the stained one?
The painted.
Oh, I went with the stained one. I just, but we got that kicking around the house. I'm sure you might still have some booties left that Grandma made.
But we have a whole bin of booties, all sizes. If anybody's interested,
they're not worn down. Mine are worn down. They got holes in the heel.
You give them to Aunt Lena. She'll fix them up.
Right. She's the resident booty knitter. All right. So I think that's it, man. What a great first live stream interview. You really did a great job. I love how you had everything ready to go to bring into it. I think this is a great first example as far as trying to tie everything all together and showing those physical memories that you have as well. Any parting words before we sign off?
Thank you. Congratulations. I hope this, people got a little bit of value out of it. Thanks for letting me share, some parts of my story. And maybe we'll catch up in 10 years or so and do it again. We'll see.
Maybe.
See where we went.
Yeah, I actually talked about my brother about that this morning. If anybody would ever be interested in doing follow-up videos and this people giving their Storybee answer and then, hey, 10 years later, guess what? It happened. That kind of thing. That's really cool. All right. So I think we're gonna sign off. You can stay here. I think when I hit the end button, it's gonna end the broadcast, but we're still gonna be in the same room. So thank you everybody for joining me. Let me put up that quick banner real quick. Obviously a great, what's a better Christmas present than getting to preserve a story for someone else. So if you're interested, book a booking at our website, use code BUZZ2020 to get 20% off your booking. So, and then obviously we got merch too, designed by yours truly. But anyways, let me get that stuff off. I hate even having to do that, but that's how we keep the lights on, right? Oh, right. Are you pointing to the logo?
Yeah, I'm pointing to the logo.
Oh, I appreciate that. I don't know exactly why. I assume your view looks like mine, but slightly different. So
yeah, I got to get a sticker, man.
Yeah, like, subscribe. You can get a sticker. You can get a pillow. I can't see it right now, but pillow, jacket, whatever, any of that stuff. But it's less about, for me, it's less about even just supporting the company itself. To me, it's about starting that conversation about, you know, preserving people's stories and them declaring what their story is going to be, because we're all part of that. What I believe is a greater story. All of our stories are connected, and Matt's story is just one of many that ties into that bigger story. So goodbye, everybody, and tune back in at 1:30 for Summer's video. All right, bye.
Stay healthy, guys. Stay healthy.
And broadcast.